12 Faces Sober Streets Podcast, episode 81. Today's guest is Danay. She just celebrated 3 years sober on April 10th. I am definitely looking forward to hearing her story. I have been watching her profile on Instagram probably I would say 3 months. I'd say probably was like the beginning of the year. So it's about the fourth month. And she has great content. She loves to be outside, which is amazing.
Okay.
And so, and I want to hear about it. I want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, and then we gonna finish it with one tear, and then we gonna smile and be done. So that's how we gonna do it. But like I said, welcome to the show. Let's just start with background, where you from, and then we'll just jump right in from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am in Houston, Texas now. I've been in Houston, Texas since 2007, 2008, around that time. But before that, I lived in Alabama. I lived in Ohio. I was born in Michigan. So I've kind of had a little bit of a taste of North, South, a little bit of all of it, got a little bit of everything.
That's what's up. Go ahead. I want to point something out too before we get deep into this.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, how they use a reference 6 degrees of separation. So at one point, I don't know if you still go to school there, but you've attended a college with one of my former college colleagues. You went to that college, but I don't think you know him. But yeah, a buddy of mine that I went to Clark Atlanta with back in '99, he's actually a professor up there, or at HCC, I think it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
Houston Community College. We talked about this. Yes.
Yes, yeah. So I wanted to mention that. Professor Williams.
Yes.
Shout out my dude. Yes. Okay, but go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, we realized that because HCC has so many different campuses. So when I went, it was for my LCDC. So that was at their Coleman campus, which is the medical one that they have here in our med center. But there are so many different locations and campuses, it's ridiculous. But yeah, so we have to shout him out because that's really important. Because you just never know, especially our Black educators, for sure.
Yeah.
Super important. But I loved everything about that program. That was part of my sobriety journey as well, was once I decided that I saw how sobriety works and how it feels when you have actual support. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be that voice that I didn't have when I really know I needed it, and that's just a whole situation in itself, considering Black mental health, Black women getting help, all those things that become like a cliche or something that we don't talk about very much. So that in itself was something that I wanted to change from the inside out,
That's what's up. That's what's up. Now, and congratulations. Congratulations. I know you said that you said that was a certificate that you received?
Yes, so I'm certified right now. I have not taken my licensing exam.
Okay.
That's the next big step. So yeah, that's exactly where I am. It took me a while to even, get all through those classes, because I know, you got to do 225 hours here, and they want you to do 225 hours a semester here, and then also work your 40 hours you work full-time at your job. So for me, it was a lot of night classes. I remember getting off work at 5, sleeping in my car until my 7 o'clock class, then going to my night class and just doing that over and over for 2 or 3 semesters, until I could just get to that next step. I was really determined.
And you did that all sober, right?
Correct, I did. When I first started school, I was very new in my sobriety journey. I just got out of jail. I was court ordered to go to therapy. So that was my first real even taste of actually doing it for myself. I always worked in mental health, but it was more assessment. I worked in psychiatry, so it was more check in, check out, insurance verification, ADHD assessments, things like that. But actually being the client, right? That was the new perspective for me. And to have someone who knew and had my therapist at the time, he was also in recovery. So he knew everything that I had been through. He completely understood me in a way that I had never experienced before. And so for me, that was completely different. So after I realized kind of how therapy works, I was like, oh yeah, I want to do this. But my first year or so, that was like around the time of my denial stage, I call it. You know, I kind of had tasted sobriety because I was court ordered to do it, right? But once it was over, it was kind of like, well, now what can I get away with? No one really needs to know everything, you know? So it took me still a good year and a half into going to school to even get really sober.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like that, and I know that we're definitely going out of order, which is fine. But I think it's important because the fact that early in your sobriety you were in school.
Right.
That was the same thing for me when I was working on my master's, and that wasn't easy. And I was coming out of
Yeah.
rehab, so I can imagine if you know what I'm saying. If you know what was like your thought process some of the times where if you were having that tough day or even if you were having cravings, how was that for you being early in sobriety?
I think that was one of the main reasons why I really struggled so hard in staying sober during that time is because, you know, you're getting hit in the face with these hard facts, you know, like they're explaining to you the reason why you do the things you do, where these cravings come from. You know, they talk to you a lot about your family history, the genetics behind it, all that type of stuff. So you're kind of getting hit left and right when you're already so raw in your recovery with these cold hard facts about why it's happening to you, and that can be overwhelming, right?
Mm.
And for me at that time, I was just really learning what my triggers were. I was learning that if I go down this street where I would usually go where there's a liquor store, my body's going to start to get hot, my stomach is going to start getting in knots. I didn't really know exactly that that was a trauma response or a trigger. I thought that that was almost like the part of my addiction, that was the craving part that was telling me I should do it, not the part that was telling me you need to go in the opposite direction, if that makes sense. So
No.
for me, it was kind of just making sense of what was happening to my body, what was happening to my mind, making sense of all the emotions physically and mentally that I was going through.
Mm. And you mentioned you were court appointed. Now, how did you get yourself involved with that?
Yeah. When I first moved to Houston, I was 20, going on 21. So I was always a very big party person. I loved just having people over. I loved being able to throw a good party and just, you know, just be the life of the party or whatever you may be. So when I moved to Houston, it was this big city. I only came from a small college town where you knew everyone. So you kind of felt like you trusted people more, to a big city where I knew no one, and kind of still had that trust everybody mentality, you know, wanting to try a little bit of everything. And that got me in trouble, you know, just being young and not knowing what I know now, looking for my crowd. You know, I had a great group of friends and I still wanted to have more. I was never satisfied with having enough friends or trying different things. So with that situation, I ended up getting arrested for a very drunk evening that I had that led to lots of consequences, that gave me a felony. Um, I had to spend 7 nights in Harris County. My bond was just ridiculous. And I had never been to jail before in my life. So this was completely new to me. I didn't know, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how I got there. I didn't understand anything that was happening to me. I was just like, I felt so detached from my own reality. But once I did finally, you know, start the, you know, the rehabilitation, if you will, the court ordered therapy, having to go to AA, having to go to these different classes, Those type of things, some of it was sinking in and some of it wasn't. I still was feeling quite rebellious. I wasn't fully accepting that this was my fault. I was still finding ways to blame other people, you know, like, oh, they just want to, you know, hold me down, or, you know, what I did wasn't that bad. There are people that are worse than me, you know, out here. Things like that, you know, just kind of pitying myself and not taking any accountability, for sure.
Do you think that if some of that wasn't court appointed and you just decide, okay, hey, I want to stop drinking or whatever, do you think that looking back on it now, do you think you would have involved yourself in AA or any of those other programs?
I don't know. I don't think I would have had the because I needed that clarity, that time of sobriety to see how good it was over here, because I had never experienced it. I started drinking when I was really young, so being able to experience that clarity that comes with sobriety, I would have needed that, and I'm not sure I would have been able to find it on my own without someone forcing me in that direction. Yeah, that would have been really hard to see that happen without it. So I'm extremely grateful, for sure.
Okay. Now, let's see. Yeah, because when I never had to do mine, you know, going to AA or any of the stuff that I did was court appointed. All of the stuff I did was volunteer.
Yeah.
But I you know, I wanted to, you know, I've been meaning to ask that question to others that have been court appointed, because like it's kind of one of those things where it's like if you know you forced to do it, then of course you're gonna do it. But if the laws or somebody important is saying you ain't got to do it, guess what? You're not gonna do it. And I was kind of like that. But see, for me, like, because I had a discussion earlier this morning in regards to that, like for me, AA was something that I did when I was still drinking. So once I got sober and tried to go to AA, it was like, okay, I'm trying to work through issues and problems, but then it's like I sat in this very room drunk.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of hard for me to be in that same room and now be 100% sober. So for me, I just like, well, I got a sponsor. I call her from time to time. I check in, and that's as much as my AA. My AA is social media and doing, you know, alcohol, you know, sober related stuff, because I just feel like that was my own personal trauma. I was dealing with a lot, and it was like my family made me go. So it wasn't like I wanted to actually go and do it. So, but yeah, I just wanted to point that out. But
And I feel like I've
now,
seen that in all different aspects, because like you said, when I was going, you know, you got to go in, take your sheet 3 times a day. You just get somebody to sign it. You get in, you get out. I would definitely pull up to AA after leaving a happy hour, or I would still have like my little 4-pack of wine that I would finish before I go in. And, you know, even while you're even a little bit intoxicated, you can't ignore the stories and the testimonies that you hear in there. So it was kind of like I felt like we would numb ourselves to be able to live through it, right? Just enough to get out. But I always remembered the stories that I heard, and really was that affirmation that I needed to realize, okay, I do have a problem. No matter if I keep drinking a little bit to get through this, I am what I'm hearing. These people that are telling their stories, I've been there, I've done that. It was definitely needed whether I was drunk or not, because I needed to realize that I was way further gone than I thought I was. Right?
or
So, yeah.
that saying of don't nobody understand what I'm going through. And then until you walk in there, you like, whoa, like their story is the same, if not worse, you know,
Absolutely.
or something like that. So yeah, definitely a dose of reality. You know what I'm saying? Especially to hear, you know, like you said, some people are not, they don't hold back as far as their honesty, their truth. And so it's like, whoa, that really happened? Like, dang, you know what I'm saying? And then you like for me, I was questioning myself, like, damn, maybe my situation may not be as bad. But still, just to hear those stories is definitely it definitely opened my eyes. But so now when how long did you actually have to, you know how like with the court appointed? Did you have to do it for like 6 months, a year?
I had
How
3 years.
ooh,
I was 3 years on probation. I got deferred adjudication. So for 2.5 years, I was on papers. And I probably would have been off sooner, but I decided to, take that chance and, think that if I do this and I do my drug test, then I won't get caught. And of course I got caught. You always get caught. So there were things I still was just setting myself up for a failure. And like I said, it took me a really long time to realize I was the problem. I wanted to blame everybody else but myself. My mom, my parole officer, the state, anybody else I could blame. That's what I wanted to do.
Now, I'm trying to think if I want to ask this now or wait, but I will. Now, were you able to get that felony off your head, or is that still?
Yeah, I got it off. It's done.
Okay,
And,
good.
a lot of people don't know that when you get a felony, it's not like, they're like, if you don't have any other, because I never had any other felonies in my life after that. So, you qualify, of course. But depending on how severe it is, you've got to wait 10 years or 5 years. And then, depending on what field you want to go into, if you do have a felony, you've got to wait 5 or 10 years to even apply for your license. I mean, there's so many details that go into getting that off of your record. It's so hard. And they say that once you get it taken off your record, it never existed. You don't even have to ever mention it again. But it's also a part of my story, right? You're not going to find it. It's not there. It's gone. But it also helped me become the person I am today. Right. So I do acknowledge that part of my life happened. It did.
True.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to go back a little bit. Now, now, as far as growing up, now, what was it like for you growing up in terms of like, my dad is a recovering alcoholic, and I witnessed it. I saw his alcohol abuse as a kid. And so what was it like for you growing up? Like, did your family educate you on, this is what drugs and alcohol can do to you, even though we have dared? But still, was there that type of communication? Because I know that I didn't have that, and I don't know if that's just in all homes they don't talk about it, or in some homes. But so I'm just curious, how was that for you?
Well, I'm also I'm an '80s baby, so I feel like it was that time when drugs and all of that were kind of in the forefront. You saw more on TV. There was a lot more of a fear aspect being around it. My mom was an alcoholic. She got sober when I was really young. So I was definitely around it. Drugs, alcohol. My dad abused drugs, and he actually passed away from complications of the drugs that he used when I was probably around like 13 or 14. So I don't say that I come from like a family of addicts, because I don't see it that way. I say that I come from a family of caring, nurturing, motivated people who happen to suffer from addiction, right? My mom's been sober now over 30 years. I mean, she did her time in rehab and never looked back. And, that's something that's always been super inspiring to me. But also it's just like, we know it's genetic, right? We know that addiction is genetic. So it's more of just like your environment and the aspects what might happen. If you have addiction in your family and you're not raised around it, or you're taught to stay away from it, things like that, you might not become an addict. But if it's prevalent in your family, in your environment, you see it on a regular basis, you see your family members abusing it, you're more likely to become an addict. So it's not necessarily you're just born that way. You're born with that trait, and it just takes that extra something to possibly click with that addiction. And it can happen at any time.
Very, very true. Because like I said, I was a very, very, very social drinker when I lived in Minnesota.
Right.
The moment I left and went to Arizona, it was a whole different story.
Yeah.
And it was because of the fact that like, here I am, I have a bachelor's bachelor's degree. This was, I think, 2005, 2 years out of college, thinking like, oh, I'm gonna work in broadcasting. I'm gonna be this, famous radio personality. Arizona didn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
They wasn't trying to. I'm just being real. Like, they wasn't trying to hire nobody black.
Right.
At hip hop and R&B stations. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And so I sunk into depression. And then what was that next? I went from drinking the light beers to drinking the malt liquors to the Hennessy and stuff like that. Stuff that I wasn't doing up here in Minnesota. Right. I'm hanging out with one of my brothers, and it was like, damn, okay. I went from like the quiet guy, the shy guy, to now I'm in your face. Yeah. I'm mad. I'm, you know what I mean, combative. And I'm like, they're like, this ain't, they call me Junior. They're like, Junior ain't like this. Right. Junior don't normally, so it's like, but did nobody never really bother to ask, like, hey man, what's been going on? We see you working a job for $7 an hour, but you got a bachelor's degree. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And so it was difficult. It was. And that's what people sometimes don't understand is that, yeah, we can go to the bottle, but then let's get to the root of the problem and find out, like, why? Right. Why is this person drinking this? What did they do? Or what was done to them that may have gotten them to this point? You know what I mean? So,
and that why is the hardest part. That is the hardest part, because especially like we talk about Black mental health, mm-hmm. that was a big part of my journey, was realizing that my drinking came from my depression. Mm-hmm. Where's my depression coming from? So trying to get that navigated and squared away, and getting misdiagnosed. They're saying, oh, well, she's bipolar. She's showing signs of bipolar because her depression's here, and then she's up. When really it's, I'm depressed because I know I can do things, but my mm-hmm. brain won't let me because I have ADHD, and trying to get doctors and people to run tests and figure that out, because it starts in your mind, your mm-hmm. addiction, your all of that stuff. So once you kind of get that part narrowed away, then you can kind of start to realize why you process things the way you do. And for me, that was something that kept getting me a few steps forward and then setting me right back. And you have to be persistent about your health. Just like I tell people, if your arm was hanging off, you walking around, you got this broke arm, it's barely hanging on by the socket, somebody's going to keep telling you, like, I don't know, Danay, since you might want to get that looked at, like, it ain't supposed to be like that. Yeah. They try to help you, might hold it. It's the same way with your brain. You just can't see it. You know what I mean? So if you're mm-hmm. having those mental clarity problems, or you can't think straight or get your thoughts in order, you need to go and consistently, persistently see a doctor to help you figure out what's going on there first. That's so important.
Did you seek the help before you got sober, or was this something that you did after the fact?
I was always trying to have good mental health, right? But I think I realized that at some point I would drink when I was upset or sad, or it was the answer to whatever problem I had. It's a good day, let's drink. It's a bad day, let's drink. This happened to a friend. I'm feeling a way about it. Let's drink. Mm-hmm. Society teaches you that. Have a bad day, get you a glass of wine. Call your girlfriends together, go talk about it and drink. I mean, this is what society teaches us to do. Mm-hmm. So it made sense to me to do that, no matter what the situation was. But then I started to think, well, why are you having so many bad days? That's a lot of bad days, so then that's when you try to get the mental health part together. But still, it's not an easy task. And it's definitely not easy in our community because we don't even talk about it.
Look, I didn't go, the first time I went to therapy, I was like 30. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally, I was, let me see, I'm 43 now. So yeah, 13 years ago was the first time I went to therapy. And that's a shame. Yeah. When I've been going through stuff all throughout my life, you know what I'm saying? Right. And but that's I don't know what it is. Like, why is it so hard for our people to openly speak out about this? You know what I'm saying? If we got the mental health issues, let's talk about it instead of making fun of people. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what we do sometimes. Like, okay, we about to go to a family function. Okay, you might want to stay away. If Uncle so-and-so come, yeah, you might want to be ready to leave because something might pop off. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that shouldn't be the case. Let's get this man some help. Let's not record him acting a fool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go drop him off at a rehab facility, or you know what I'm saying, or
Yeah.
have that intervention. You know, but like I said, I don't know what it is. Maybe because our grandparents didn't teach them,
Yeah.
so they couldn't teach us. You
Right.
know, which is sad. You know,
Because
I
without the
guess other.
tools, you
Go
don't
ahead.
know what to do. If you don't have the tools, you don't know what to do, right? Because once you know better, you do better. And I
Exactly.
was telling a friend like that, how I feel like alcohol is changing the way like cigarettes were when our parents were older. I mean, we're younger, right?
Hmm.
Because we are more aware of the warning signs of alcoholism. So, like you were
Hmm.
just saying, when we see, like a friend's husband might come up to me and say, my husband started drinking like as soon as he woke up today, I don't know, before we even got on a road trip, he already had a bottle.
Hmm.
Well, she's telling me that now because she sees it. Unlike
Hmm.
way back in the day, it would be like, oh, that's just Uncle so and so. That's just what he
Hmm.
does. He drinks from sun up to sundown. No, we see the warning signs and we're like, maybe that's a problem. Maybe we need to look into why you're doing this more. And I think that's going to change the way alcohol is so prevalent in our community because now we're kind of realizing it's more detrimental than anything.
Really? Yeah, because I'm gonna be real. Like, I've been on both sides. I was a correctional officer here at the maximum prison where they're housing Chauvin,
Yeah.
the dude who took out George Floyd, and I've also been, in the jail downtown Phoenix. And I know that when I was working as a correctional officer, one of my first jobs out of college, there was a situation where the guy was like, "Hey, man, I need you to bring something in." I told him, I said, "You think I want to be in here with you?" And then for that to be 4 years later and then be in the jail cell and somebody telling me what to do, I was uncomfortable with it. And I said, I'll never go back. Even though I got
Same.
detained in the army, but I just knew, like, nah, jail ain't for me.
No.
I'm good.
I
You
mean,
know
I
what
remember
I'm
I had the bailsman asking me if I was the attorney. I'm like, no, I'm the client. I don't
saying?
work here. Okay. And I remember that being like the most weirdest out of body experience. I'm like, they don't even think that you're supposed to be here. They can just
Right.
look at you and say, you're not the client. You obviously work here. No.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
those moments, like you said, were signs that you were like, this ain't for us.
Right. Right. Yeah. And then I don't know. I just think that, like, I will say, I'm super, I'm happy, thankful for the sober community. Big shouts out Keola. I know that she popped in here. I don't know if she's still in here, but in Carolina, I went to high school with her.
And
Um,
forgive
it's
me,
just
I'm getting over a cold, so
it's
my
fun though,
voice
right?
and everything. It's just this respiratory stuff.
Yeah, I honestly I think it's going around because I just speaking of Ohio, I was just in Ohio like last month and literally got sick like the day I came back and was sick for a whole week. I was like,
Man,
nah, I don't even I normally don't I hardly ever get sick, so that's why I was like, man, what is this? You know what I'm saying? But let me see let me see where am I at because you
yeah.
didn't told me. Um, now we were speaking of you know us, people of color out here. How has um how long have you been on social media in terms of pushing out your sober message? How long have you been doing that? Let me start with that question.
That's a good question because when I first started, which I only started Sober Girls February of last year, and when I first started it, I was using Meetup, the app Meetup, and I had been using it for when I at first was diagnosed for bipolar. I got on there and I was looking. I found like these bipolar meetups that were super cool. We would all meet up. It was co-ed. We talk about our symptoms. We would talk about what meds we were on. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like, I love the community. I love the support. So I started using that app somewhat regularly, especially once I started getting sober. And then I realized I was like, there's no sober groups on here. There's no sober community for women specifically. We have the Phoenix, we have a few different sober outdoor groups, but I noticed that they were mainly just catered towards rock climbing, running, hiking, and I enjoy being outside. That's definitely in my bag. But I also want to go out to the club still. I still want to go to the park. I still want to go dancing. I want to get dressed up and go have a nice dinner. I want to go to live concerts. Like, I still want to do all that, but safely and sober.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing, nothing wrong with that at all. There's nothing wrong with that. At first I was kind of afraid. I didn't think that, like, oh, can I still, I don't go to clubs. I used to work in clubs, so I don't do clubs anymore. But, I was like, man, will I be able to, go to a family function knowing that, okay, people, my brothers, sisters, they drink, nephews, will I be okay with that? And so what I've told myself was like, all right, just don't stay as long as you normally do.
Mm-hmm.
Go show your face, take pictures, do whatever you got to do. But once the party starts to go to a different, more intoxicated people, there's no need for me to be there no more.
Right.
Because I don't want to put myself in that vulnerable state. I don't like people being in my face that reek of alcohol. You know what I'm saying? Because I know what I drink, what I used to drink in the past, and I know that they still drink that stuff, and that's why I'm like, I can't, put myself in that type of environment.
Awareness of your triggers.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a mix of shame in there. You see a little bit of yourself for when you were drinking. It's there's so many layers to it, and that's why it's always important. I try to make it people understand that if you do come out for a night when we do go, you will always be in a section where it's no alcohol. It's going to be a mocktail establishment. We're going to be catered to. Everybody knows we're the sober crowd. You don't have to worry about people harassing you about, do you have a drink? Why aren't you drinking? Things like that. You are going to feel safe. And that's why I always use that word safe, because when you are a sober person or trying to live a sober lifestyle and you go out with people who are still drinking, they'll make you feel like you're carrying the world on your shoulders. Like, you don't have a drink? Why aren't you drinking? They want to know everything. And sometimes, one, you don't want to talk about it. That's going to make you want to drink more so you don't have to talk in general. And that's not a safe experience. That's not a safe social environment. So that's why I always make sure to use the word safe, because that's really what it is, truly.
Now, I like that. I like that, the safe concept, because I never really thought about it like that. I was just like, all right, I'm just not gonna drink. But to put the, like, being safe in those that are around you, and knowing that, okay, everybody here is on working, in conjunction, and our goal is the same thing: have fun, maintain sobriety, but just know that this ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
Not with what, and I like that. That's a pretty good mission. But, like, I don't know, I think for me, I've one thing that I can say I've, like, struggled with, at least, like, when I was in Florida, I ain't had no friends. I keep it real. Like, I kept to myself. But coming back to Minnesota, because I've been here off and on since 2000, I've had a lot of friends along the way. But a lot of my friends respect the fact that I don't drink and won't drink in front of me.
Right.
How is that for you? Like, if you want to go hang out with your girl, how you were mentioning, you said, like, if you on the phone, you on the phone with your homegirl, they might have a problem with y'all having a drink. So, like, do your friends understand, like, okay, hey, I'm sober, I don't do this, but we can still kick it? Like, so how is it?
That was always interesting. I have all different type of friend groups, and all my friend groups are different. I have, like, the few different friends that are, like, super protective of me, right? Like, when we go out, pick a restaurant, they bring out the one, she's not drinking, she won't have it. And those ones are my favorite, because it's funny to me, because they're doing it with care. They just want to make sure that I feel safe, I'm not bombarded, but I can also speak up for myself. So those ones are always kind of cute to me. And then I have friends that make sure they pick a location that they know has mocktail options, right? So I don't feel left out. We're going to go and they have a few cocktails and I'll have mine. I have other friends that, they're going to ask me thoroughly, like, are you sure that it's fine being around other drinkers? That doesn't bother you? Sure. So it depends on, to me, I've noticed the person, right? And how close I am in them with that relationship. My good close friends, usually they'll let me pick the location. I personally am at a place where being around other people drinking does not trigger me anymore. Smelling the alcohol sometimes might do it, you know, so I definitely don't want to be sitting directly at a bar where they're making the drinks right there. I know that personally. Things like that, making sure if it's like a house party, I have a designated cup. It's got something on there, it's Danay's. Nobody's gonna know to make a drink or mix it up with anyone else's. This is mine. I have really good friends that make sure they have sober options for me. Or if I'm going to like a party, I bring my own sober options. You know, always having a plan. That's something that I realize sets me up for success. Making sure that if I am going out, whatever social setting it may be, what is my plan to secure that I'll be sober the entire night and that I won't start to second guess my decisions.
And now I got it. This is a good one. Now
Yay.
does man, look, I've lost my train of thought. Now does like how does your okay, I know you said your mom has been sober, you said 30 years.
Yeah. Almost 30 years.
How does she view Danay today over the woman who struggled with alcohol? How how are those two conversations that you had with your mom when you was deep in drinking and how it is today being sober?
That's a good question. I think when I was definitely in my addiction, you know, obviously she saw so much of herself in me, right? She had me when she was 30, so she was older. Like I said, we have people who have been in active addiction in our family. So she knows it all, you know. And our family was one of those families that was kind of like, oh, that's just that Jones side, you know. We kind of always had a name for it. But we also lost a lot of people to cirrhosis of the liver in our family. So, you know, it was a joke, but it wasn't funny. I feel like when I was in my addiction, it was more lots of worry. You know, you can see someone's body language drop when they are not so much disappointed, but they had higher hopes and it's not what they thought. So looking for those cues when I would be around her. Now it's more, we just enjoy each other's company. There's no like ulterior motive where she's trying to really find out if I'm really okay. We're just very present with each other. We are very honest with each other. We're just basically, more present now. We've always had a very closeness when it comes to letting each other know when we've done something that we're both each proud of. Like, you really did it this time. This is something I'm really proud of. I share my milestones with her, but I also know if I have any stumbles or if I'm feeling anxious about things. Like, for example, I told you I've been sick. This has been new for me. Finding medicines with no alcohol in it, right? I started with the cough medicine that did have a low alcohol content, and I felt like hungover the next day. And I realized I can't do this, right? So being able to have that conversation with her for the first time showed me that we're growing in our sobriety journey together. We're growing as mother and daughter. We're growing with our vulnerability. We're growing with our comfortability, being able to talk about what scares us without fear or prejudice.
I like that. I like that. How I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but how has things been for you navigating navigating through the sober community and or the Black sober community?
Wow. The Black sober community. Man, I tell you, when I first started looking for it, listen, I would have fought you up and down and said we don't have one. You know, like if you just look up, you go by hashtags or, you know, looking up counts on social media compared to our counts compared to the white sober community, it's like we don't exist almost, right?
For real.
So I was super excited to find like the Black Sober Girls Club, just finding other women that live in different states, wherever they may be, that are also people of color that are in sobriety, because we definitely exist. And I think that there's two reasons why it's hard. One, we keep secrets. The Black community, when it comes to mental health or substance abuse, that's our family stuff, right? We don't talk about it. We handle it. We take it to church. We do whatever we need to do. So it's kind of hard to find other people of color that are being as outspoken, being sober loudly, because with that, you have to admit your shame, some of your faults. You have to talk about how you got here, you know, and some of that stuff can get a little murky. And I think it's really hard to find other people of color who are ready to have those conversations. And that's definitely something that's I noticed has been really hard.
Right.
And also, we really have not always been given a seat at the table with this situation in general, right? I don't know many Black, well, I know now of the women who have come before me who have made those seats at the table and started their own companies and foundations for people of color, people with less money than others, things like that. But again, we haven't really had a seat up there for so long.
Okay. Aubrey Fleming. Hello. My motto
Miss
is
Sharpland.
I am only sick as myself.
That's right. That's right.
I like that. Yeah, I think for me it was, I can't remember like the first actual like Black sober account that I found,
Yeah.
but I know that it took a while before I actually like interacted with people. And then even when I did reach out to some people, it was, yeah, it was like, oh yeah, you're sober. Okay, cool. All right. And then it was nothing else. And so now it's like I try to make it a point
Right.
to try to talk to people. You know what I mean? Like really, if I see a suggestion and they look like us, guess what? I'm going to go on their profile. I'm going to look at their pictures, and I might just follow them just because, just
Or
to
just reach
see,
out.
okay, yeah, and let them know, because to me, like, it's been tough. It's been a challenge, and even some of the times where like I've experienced that, like you said, that they not trying to have us at the table. I done posted that. I've posted it like, yo, like, wait a minute. There's okay, yeah, we both are trying to be sober, but we should be included. You know, we should, you know, like shout out to Keola, because Keola put the fire on somebody.
And
They,
it's
you
not
know,
cheap. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that part too. To have a seat at the table is not a cheap thing to do either, I've
yeah,
noted.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I had to, you know, I'm gonna say I'm glad you brought that up, because I so try to reach out to somebody and was like, oh, it's gonna cost you $125 to $150 to talk to this person. I'm like, like, whoa. I was like, okay, well, I'm like, should I start charging? I'm like, shoot, I got a master's degree in communications.
yes.
I'm specializing in talking, and so now I'm using my own platform to talk, but I'm not charging nobody.
And I
That,
think,
I mean, I understand.
yes.
Okay, granted, people can sell, they can do the coaching. I respect it. I might get into it at some point. I sell merchandise. I sell my book and all that stuff. But just to have a conversation is $150. I'm like, you're not even famous. I'm gonna say it. You're not famous. Okay, so,
It's,
but like I said,
yeah,
it's crazy.
it is
It's
crazy. And to, it's something that I've definitely really picked up on in the past year was, how do I phrase this? Was not only making my own table, and having my own voice and having my own story and explaining the reason that I do things, but still being able to invite the people who might not have let me have a seat at their table to come visit mine, to come and see why I do what I do. And I take their suggestions and I listen to what they think I should do or what they think work for them. And I just let God lead me in the way that fulfills me the most. I definitely at some point want to, always elevate, always take things to the next level, make Sober Girls more and more, just like you say with your show, more episodes, more content, better quality. But with that, I don't want to lose the content of my character as to who I am, why I decided to do this, and the main purpose is to help women, right? And I feel like in some of these sober circles, especially the ones that aren't full of people of color, it's more of a price point. And I didn't have that when I was struggling. And there were some days when I needed someone the most. And to think that I would have to pay to get it is very disheartening. And that set me back, right? So for me, it is, yes, there's a lot of content that is free. There are a lot of events that are free, because my main thing is I want to help you find people like us so that you can create your own connections, set up your own friendships, with these people and build. It's about lifting as you climb. It's not about pocket checking somebody else or seeing what this organization is doing. It's about community. We're a sobriety community. If we don't take care of each other, we don't have anybody. No one else is looking out for us but us.
Really? And then we'll just be floating out in the world trying to figure out if we can correct the addiction or not, or can we get the support? Can we have, this platform where we can talk about it? You share your thoughts, I share mine. What can we do to help the next person? Yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
like I said, I laugh at it. I truly laugh at it because of the fact that, like, I was interviewed back in like August or September, and somebody said some off the wall stuff on a live, and I was like, damn, like, did you really say this? And I'm like, I'm gonna keep a straight face. I'm like, nah, you know what? I said I had to pull my, go in my back pocket and say, okay, I think I took a class in news writing and reporting, and so you got to still be professional when you answer these questions, even if they are offensive. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna go ahead. But this was what the person who interviewed me, it was like off topic. I'm like, we're not even talking about no racist stuff. But but since you brought it up, and let me tell you, I'm on social media to reach out to Black people. So then when I said that to her, she was like, okay, and then she was like, dang. I told her, I said, yeah, I did a study abroad in South Africa. You telling me that a Black man can't go to South Africa during his sobriety and go for free because the government paid for it because I'm a veteran? I'm like, damn, like, so you tell, I'm like, so I'm not supposed to go to school because I'm retired, I ain't got to work, but I decided to go to school. Like, so it was the most awkward interview I've ever been on. I'm sorry to say it, and might not be professional, but it is what it is. But like I said,
and that's why, and that's all that matters. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, that's why I try to have the conversation with people before the podcast, so we can get a feel. You know what I'm saying? How is the interview going to be? Is it going to be fun? Am I going to have to pull the questions out and stuff like that? And it's tough, but I love it. I love it so.
It's definitely tough. And I think I realized also that we have so many different layers of sobriety. That was a big part of me when I made Sober Girls, was there were no restrictions. No, you have to be sober 24 hours, 2 weeks, 30 days. You have to attend so many meetings. I just want to meet people where they are. Wherever you are, you can be sober for this event, I'll take you. Let's just do that. Wherever you are. And just accepting people for exactly how they present themselves.
Yeah, because and see that, as I put out those 4 letters, free. I give free mentoring to a lot of people for a specific reason. because when I was out here struggling,
That's right.
wasn't nobody helping me. Wasn't nobody giving me the advice and the real, like, oh, your wife is tripping. Oh, I was married. Oh, I went through this. Oh, kids was tripping. My stepkids was tripping. So it's like I'm giving you all and this is what I did to get out of that situation. I ran. I got a divorce and loved life afterwards. But that's the thing, is that, I don't know. I made this platform because I felt like not everybody in the sober community talks like me. Not everybody in the sober community is going to understand my lingo and language. And when I make a reference, some people may understand it and some people don't. And then so it's like, do I talk professional or do I talk urban? Like, which one is it? No, I'm going to be myself. And either you accept me for who I am, black and sober, or then, like I said, this page ain't meant for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I love
that's
it,
been
though.
a gift and a curse of learning, for sure, is making sure I separate this sober girls from Danay, right? Because this is not my identity. It's a part of who I am. So making sure that I don't let too much get wrapped around the way people speak to me, or the way that people, inquire about events, or the way that they ask for more information, to make sure that there's safe boundaries, to make sure that, it's about helping others without hurting myself.
And then you said something. I don't know how to this. I didn't share this question with you before we talked, but so I don't know if it comes out right, but I'm just gonna ask you. How does it feel being a sober black woman?
I don't know why debilitating was the first word that came to mind, but empowering, for sure. I guess it depends on where. As a sober black woman, it feels empowering, for sure, because I feel like there were so many people telling me what I couldn't do, and I did it anyway. So I feel very empowered by that. But when I wasn't sober and just being an alcoholic black woman, it felt like that's what I wore across my face. That was the only thing that you saw about me, and the only thing that was the most prevalent. So now, as a sober black woman, I feel like I have all these other attributes, these other verbs all over me when you see me. Active, entertaining, uplifting, honest, all these other parts that come with it.
All right. Well, look, I got two more questions, and then I think we might be done, unless you got something else.
Yeah. So I go take some medicine.
I feel you. Now, now the sober girls HTX.
Right.
Now, is that something that you still do in terms of the meetups and everything?
Absolutely. I do everything myself. I find the events, I set them up. I got my website, I make the RSVPs. Any email you get from a sober girl, it's me. Hey, that's me. Everything across the board. So yeah, we've got a few things coming up. This year I wanted to do, now that I know more of the type of women that I want to help serve. For example, there are women at like the women's home, or women who are actually still in active treatment, women who have been sober for years, women who aren't in any type of recovery process at all. They just don't want to go out and it only be about alcohol. So now that I know that there are so many different type of sober women, this year it's more about creating events and experiences that cater and curate to everybody, right? Making sure there's events for people who don't have cars, might be needing public transportation, things like that. So we have a sober Cinco de Mayo event coming up that I'm really excited about. Working with a few NA beverage sponsors to do a few events that are going to be like mocktail pop-ups, but definitely more wellness things for sure this year.
That's so, and I like that. I like that. Now, this may take a second.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you definitely put down. Oh wait, you know what? I forgot to ask that. Yep, I gotta ask. I have to. What is one roadblock or challenge that you have faced in these last 3 years, and what did you do to handle that situation?
I think the biggest roadblock for me is time management. I am, or my inner saboteur, yeah. Like sometimes I can get in my head.
Mm-hmm.
When I get really stressed out or frustrated about something, I freeze. So I do absolutely nothing. I just freeze in the moment and stress about it. So for me, one of the biggest things has been not stressing out and setting a plan and making a list, writing things down. I have 3 different calendars in my house in one room. Each of them serve a different purpose. Um, Being nice to myself, giving myself grace. When my body says you can do no more, do no more. Learning to rest when I need to. Those are a few things that I never gave myself any grace or any time, none of that. I just kind of felt if I wasn't doing it at the best level, I'm just doing everything wrong.
For
When that's
sure.
not true. Yeah.
And the last question is, what message do you have? And we'll make it catered specifically to women.
Okay, let's do it.
What message to women that you have out there that might be, because I know you mentioned kind of like those that are early in sobriety might have a little bit of time under their belt. So what message would that be if someone's watching this podcast and it's like, she had a good story, but I just need a message. So what message would you leave them in terms of just from your own personal experiences over the last 3 years? Like what message would you leave someone that want to be
Yeah.
in our shoes?
Never give up on yourself. That's like the biggest thing is for me, I always say that I felt like I wasn't worthy of love, but I don't believe it's fully that way. I believe I didn't put enough love into myself. I constantly put it into everyone else. And
Mm,
I thought that if I did that, that would bring it back tenfold. But if you don't love yourself, then you can't help anyone else. So for
absolutely.
me, I would just say continue to choose yourself. Understand that you don't have any idea how much you can accomplish when you focus on yourself and your own goals, and just do that because it's limitless then.
Mm. Well, Danay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Unless you got a question for me, before we end it,
I want
you know
my
what I'm saying?
signed copy of that book, so we'll have to set that
I
up for
got you.
sure.
Yeah, we'll talk offline. I got you. I can put that in the mail Monday morning. That's nothing. I don't look.
Absolutely.
All I do is 12 phases of sober stuff all day, every day. So it's nothing. I can definitely. As a matter of fact, I gotta mail another one off. I got my aunt's birthday was like last week,
Yes,
and I told her I was gonna send her a book. So I got you. We'll make that happen for sure.
and I'm so
But
grateful. I'm so grateful.
for sure. And I just wanted to say to you, continue doing,
Thank you.
continue putting out amazing content, continue hosting those type of events because people need it.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And if if they didn't need it, people wouldn't go out there and try to seek it. Or you have your following. So continue to do it. Continue to help others. You know what I mean? And continue to share that great story. See, and look, you didn't cry, so I
I
did
did
good.
it.
I did good. I did good. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But nah, for real, like I really
And I want to say the
appreciate
same
it.
to you is to continue to be fearless. And like we talk about is making our own table,
Mm,
setting it up in our own path, because if we don't do it, who else is going to do it?
right.
And
That's very true.
that's like the most important thing. So I just want to applaud you to continue to do your podcast. I found you. It was a light for me, and I know it's a light for others.
Yes, thank you. Most definitely. I'm glad that, you know, we made the connection, and like I said, there's more to it because I'm trying to put some other stuff together. So like I said, I'm reaching
Say
out
less.
to
Come on,
those.
Birdman
Yeah.
hand rub. Come on.
Oh,
Come on.
Bart, what you know about UAB? You know what I'm
Listen.
saying? Look, my aunt was a professor there. Stop
Come
playing.
on. Black people know everything about other Black people. We all live the same life. It's always the
So
same.
for sure. But like I said, thank you. Um, just make sure I'm gonna tell you
Yep.
make sure you send me all your information
Got it.
in terms of like where, you know, websites and all that so that I can put it in the description when I put it on YouTube as well as Spotify and all that stuff.
Perfect. I will
So but
definitely
yeah,
send you the information. If anybody wants to, of course, go to my page, you can look up there. I did definitely just finish one of my stories for a documentary that we hope to be putting together later, but my story is up
and I
on
watched it
YouTube.
and I watched it.
Yeah, so
Yes indeed.
please watch it, comment, let me know what you think, inbox me.
So
Yes.
okay. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another wonderful episode of 12 Phases Sober Speaks podcast. Thank you, Danay, for coming through, blessing the podcast with some really good information. I truly appreciate you. And like I said,
Yeah.
again, we'll definitely be doing more work. And like I said, tune into the next episode. I'm not for sure when that's going to be, but it will be within the next couple of weeks. But like I said, if you want to, go on 12phasesober.com. You can shop the merch, get a signed copy of my book, or you can go on Amazon as well and get it on there. And like I said, thank you. Be sober, be sober, be sober, because that's what I'm going to do. Y'all have a
Forever.
good one. There you go.
Bye.
I know.